Hello and welcome to Friend Update episode number 5. I'm Dan Wood.
And I'm Adam Spring.
And in today's video, we're going to be talking about 4 exciting new Friend features that will first of all allow you to access the Friend Unifying Platform much more easily anywhere you go.
Produce your own videos.
Hugely improve your existing WordPress website.
And run legacy applications in Friend.
Hey friends, and thank you for checking out our 5th episode of Friend Update. And if you are new to this show, at the start of every week, Adam and I kind of let you know what's happening behind the scenes here at Friend, and also we kind of let you know the new technologies that we're working on, a little bit of general cloud computing news as well, because it's a really exciting time. And even though we're recording this at like 7 o'clock in the evening, it's already dark outside my window. Things are not slowing down here at Friend, even though we're getting into that final quarter of 2017. If anything, things are getting busier right now, aren't they?
Well, I mean, that's the trouble when you run to a tech buzz. You know, seasons don't really apply to us. So, yeah, we're not winding down at all for 2017. And 2018 is looking to be very exciting. So why don't you tell us some news about media stuff?
Well, actually, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We started doing this show about 5 weeks ago, and our numbers are gradually increasing on YouTube and DTube, and, you know, we're going to be on iTunes as well from this week if you want to listen to the show as audio only, because, you know, some people prefer doing that when they're driving around. It's nice just to have the sound rather than having to look at our, you know, ugly mugs. Maybe people prefer to do that. So that's the idea at the moment, just to get Friend out to more people. And there is something huge that we're going to be doing next week. We're going to be appearing on the biggest podcast network in the world.
Wow.
You know the Twit network, Leo Laporte's podcast network?
I do indeed, yeah.
Now, if we're talking about Twit, I mean, I was looking into how many downloads they get. This will blow your mind. You know, you and I are podcasters. Are you ready to feel jealous?
I am indeed, absolutely.
5 million downloads a month they get.
Oh my God, wow.
So that is quite the audience, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. How are you going to deal with the fame afterwards?
Have to stop and sign autographs in the week. We're going to have to get used to it, aren't we? But next week, though, I mean, they are going to be doing a special episode all about Friend, and we're going to be appearing with Randall Schwartz on Floss Weekly. So we're going to be recording that next Thursday. We'll put all the links in our social media accounts on Twitter and Facebook. You can actually watch it live as Hogner and I are recording the episode. Then obviously the video and audio will be available again for download afterwards as well. So should be some pretty good exposure next week for us, hopefully.
Absolutely, and I will be watching live, so that's going to be fantastic.
The pressure's on.
So, tell us more about some news coming to Amazon with Friend.
Yeah, well, I mean, in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, as we mentioned at the beginning, 4 new things, 4 new features that we're working on here at Friend. The first one is going to make life a lot easier for you if you want to host your own Friend server. Now, at the moment, obviously, we're using Friend Chat. We're doing this on the Friend demo server that anybody can access. You can just sign up to this through our website. Obviously, we'll put those links on if you want a really simple way of doing it. Although having your own, basically your own cloud computer is something that many people would like to host on their own servers as well, which, you know, makes total sense. So what we're going to do is, I mean, until now, you've had to kind of compile the source code from our GitHub, which is for the real techie types, isn't it? Let's be honest, doing that. And we're making it a lot easier. So what we're going to have is an installer that will allow you to run your own Friend server on Amazon Cloud.
Wow.
So that will mean, you know, you can have your own server, your own applications, maybe you and your friends or your network. You know, if you've got maybe a small company that you work with, you can then access your private Friend server from like your laptop or your phone or your desktop machines at home or in the office. So essentially it gives you a much easier way, rather than having to do all the compiling and making the files and everything yourself, of actually hosting your own Friend server and having access to it anywhere, which I think is really, really cool. And a lot of people have been requesting that in our comments as well. So, I mean, we've mentioned it before that our dev team here at Friend are very open to suggestions. And, you know, we want to make life easy for everyone. That's kind of one of the goals of Friend.
Absolutely.
And also, well, we're going to be doing like VirtualBox images as well that I think will be really handy for developers. And we've even had a guy in our office over the last couple of weeks who's been working on a native Raspberry Pi version of Friend as well, which I know lots of people have been asking for. I mean, you know, you and I, technology types.
Yeah,
how many Raspberry Pis have you got laying around your house that, you know, need to use?
Oh, I've got all 3 generations. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, you can't get more sort of like Internet of Things, to use a buzz term and stuff like that, than the Raspberry Pi. You know, it created such a new interest and buzz in computing again, that to be on that platform is, yeah, it's just going to be very interesting to see how that goes. Very, very interesting.
One of our goals here at Friend is, you know, making access easier, isn't it? So that obviously helps you access your own Friend applications and your, you know, file storage. And another thing, I mean, we did kind of touch on this last week, Friend Cloud Studio. Now, this is a way where anyone can do what we do, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's huge from the fact that, you know, to have something like Friend Chat, which already is, it's got many advantages over other chat platforms to be able to record, live screen, and, publish. In terms of content generation, again, like you were saying, in terms of accessibility, it's just, in a way, I don't like to use the term, but it is in a way kind of a game changer.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very interesting to see when that rolls out, how that goes. And, talking about game changers, what about our WordPress our connection as well in terms of web structure?
Yeah, no, I mean, you've used WordPress, I take it.
I have.
Yeah.
I have indeed.
For many years?
Yeah, absolutely. At least 7, I would say. At least.
Yeah, I'm about the same. Probably about 10 years here, and I use it daily, really. And the thing about it is, I mean, there's that many plugins for WordPress, and it does have limitations. I mean, often you'll want to do something in WordPress, and you'll be like, right, I need to find a plugin for that, and you'll do a bit of searching, and you'll find one that's like 3 years old and hasn't been updated, and it doesn't work with the current version. Or maybe you've got like a web host who give you maybe 500 megabytes of storage, some of them, isn't it? And that's not enough for anyone anymore. Well, we've got this really cool tool which is called Web Stretcher. What it essentially is, it's kind of an all-in-one package for WordPress. Imagine a super plugin that not only gives you access to kind of off-server storage, so you can like link in maybe Google Drives, maybe your OneDrive, Dropboxes, you maybe host your images and your videos on there as well. And also, it allows you to run friend applications within WordPress.
Wow, that's huge. So not only is it making it easier for people to work with friend stuff, it's just making things easier, full stop, for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I actually went over to our HQ in Stavanger back in April, and they were working on like an early version of this. And I got a little demo, because I mean, like you said, we're both very familiar with WordPress. But this demo, I sort of blew my mind. I had like a website open in one, tab.
Yeah.
Another tab. You actually get the friend desktop embedded into the WordPress backend, into
That's
the dashboard.
insane.
Yeah, so you can drag and drop, with a mouse. Essentially, you can use WordPress and access all of your, your media library and everything, pretty much like, a folder-based file system.
Yeah.
And they just dragged a picture of a motorbike into a folder, and it appeared on the front page of this website.
So it is, instead of, because one of the problems it can be a bit clunky with like widgets and things like that. It's all drag and drop now, essentially, then by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and essentially, for anyone that works with WordPress, I mean, I showed this to a friend of mine who's a web developer, and it blew his mind. He's like, it's great. It's going to put me out the job because I'm a web developer, but it's like, again, it's just making access easier for everybody, isn't it? So if you've got your own WordPress theme and maybe a website, maybe a personal site or a small business site, and you don't want to mess around with all the back end and trying to, find these components that plug in, because I don't know if you found it like me, but often with WordPress, the more plugins you have, the more tends to break with it as well.
Yeah, and I mean also as well, when you're generating content like we are, it's like you don't want to spend several hours or even a full day sometimes editing a podcast and then have to deal with the intricacies of WordPress or keeping a website up to date or making sure that everything's running ubiquitously, for want of a better word. It sounds as though this is going to change it.
Or even like paying for several services. I mean, my podcast page is hosted on website, but then I've got to pay for like SoundCloud Premium to host it on there. If there was a way of, this will give you a storage method where you can actually import those files into your WordPress theme without relying on your web host, which, web host storage space can get quite pricey on a lot of the bigger web host services, can't it, as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm kind of fortunate on mine that it's not, I'm actually hosting through somebody else, but otherwise, no, I don't want to go through that.
And another product that we need to talk about as well, because again, this is one thing that we get asked all the time. Can I run my legacy applications in Friend?
Well, you can now, because the Liberator is allowing you to do that. And I think this one is going to be huge because of basically its connection to Windows servers, and also I think it's going to be really interesting, not just for a casual user, but also for an enterprise user as well. Because it really, I mean, and you worked with this a little bit more as well, isn't it? It really is the glue that brings everything together, whether it's Mac, Windows, everything. It's all coming together in one space.
Well, it used to be called Mitra. That was kind of our beta name for it. And we've given it a name that explains a bit more what it is now, Liberator, which I think is a pretty cool name.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's says what it does. But again, I mean, you look at companies, I imagine, who've got legacy applications that they want to run, and we get asked this occasionally by users. It's like having a new environment. It's not always easy to transition everything over, and you might work for a company who relies on maybe these legacy Windows applications, maybe Microsoft Office, or maybe Adobe software. If you have access to a Windows server, what you can now do is actually run those old Windows applications inside the Friend environment.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting you should say that, because one of the things I immediately think of, do you remember when they used to run cache machines on Windows XP?
Yeah, I think some still do.
And then basically when XP was being, no longer supported, there was a complete crisis
Yeah.
going on with that. Again, that's, something you wouldn't necessarily think about, but for something like Liberator, that would be an ideal application.
Yeah. Well, it's something we call it soft merging. So it's essentially, kind of moving companies gently into the new, the 21st century if you're stuck on this old legacy architecture. And what it does mean is, though, it's you can also access, I did a little demo showing, the Windows calculator and Paint running on my iPhone. So via the Friend platform, it opens up, again, going back to accessibility, gives you access to these applications that previously were tied to just Windows machines. You can now access anything via the Friend environment. So that's really powerful in itself.
Well, I think also as well, the four things we've mentioned, the Amazon, the, Studio, the Liberator side of things, and the Web Stretcher, that's the thing that basically all four have in common, which is basically accessibility and making it easier for people. And, at this point in time, we talked about cloud computing earlier, when we're talking about things like distributed computing and this idea of, you can do anything from anywhere now. Those four things all give you the ability to do that with ease of use as well. So I think it's very much exciting times, and we are going to be even busier in Q4/Q1 of 2018.
We don't need sleep, Adam, do we?
No, not at all. Who needs time zones, right?
Live on caffeine.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, speaking of which, you have been busy this week. Some people may have seen the rather in-depth article you did on Medium all about the Friend platform.
Yeah, so basically when I first came in, we did that little video on Web 4.0, and one of the first things I thought would be important to do was to flesh out some of the stuff that obviously we talk about a lot and things move quite quickly in a tech company, but to try and make it easier to approach. As I think we've discussed before, it's really easy to make something sound hard. Yeah. To make something hard sound easy is really difficult. And I think I'm kind of there, but so basically the article, which is over on Medium, we go through things like the Internet of Things. We demystify that idea. I think there's a really nice graphic that was done on there in association with Paul Kitching, which explains, some of our applications and the key thing about connectivity. And I think another really useful thing, there's always this pressure to not connect things that are already pre-existing, and what I've done there, I've used the London Underground and the map that was done using a schematic theme to basically explain where Friend might sit, but also as well some ideas from Web 2.0 and the time of Doug Engelbart, who, the inventor of the mouse. He came up with the idea of collaboration and things like that. So for anybody that's interested to know a little bit more, have had some questions about Friends and need to pin them down a little bit more, I think that article will be really good to look at.
Absolutely, and if you do want to check it out and you haven't seen it yet, we will obviously put that in the video description. But again, it's just like you mentioned a really good point there, that when we do get like a paradigm change or a new development in technology, a lot of people, it does take time for people to get their head around it. And I think, that's one of the goals, one of the reasons we're doing this show, is to kind of explain things in more detail and kind of keep people up to date with what's going on. And obviously, we're always open to questions as well. We do often get them in our video comments. And I think, we'll start reading some out on the show from next week and hopefully answering some as well. So if you ever got anything you want to ask us about Friend, leave a comment on this video. Find us on the developer forums or IRC. We talk about accessibility. We're very accessible guys, aren't we, Adam?
Absolutely. It's all about interaction. Totally. Not a one-way thing. It's all about a two-way thing. We live in an active world.
We do. All right, then, speaking of which, we'll get back to work now, Adam.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, thank you for checking out the 5th episode of Friend Update, and we'll see you next week.